A fire in a house with one person barricaded.
What we knew was that Tony Hsieh had passed away from complications due to inhaling smoke from a fire. The fire happened 9 days before he passed away. And there were a lot of questions about, what led up to the fire, what happened within that week and a half. And there was just some unclear language about the announcement. And so we were just sort of monitoring social media. And meanwhile, my editors were telling us that there's probably more of a story to be told here.
Some things just didn't seem to add up. And something that our editor-in-chief, Randall Lane, was pushing was, we need to really understand exactly what happened here and, do this in a way that talks about who Tony is. We wanted to be the publication that was writing about it in a very thoughtful way because, you had this towering figure who made profound changes on business, on leadership, on the way that you run companies, on just even how you live life. And we thought that message and the untimely and unseeming death just made for a story that we needed to tell right.
Tony Hsieh was a tech visionary who started a few companies very early on in his career, but what he's most known for is really being the CEO of Zappos, which is an online shoe retailer that was a lot more popular in the early 2000s. And he's best known for selling that company to Amazon in 2009 for $1.2 billion. So we essentially scraped the entire internet for any sources that had any connection to Tony. And once we had built up, a solid source list, then we just reached out to everyone that we could.
Zappos' core values are an obsession, embrace change, be humble, create fun and a little weirdness.
So it's no secret that Tony liked to blend work and fun in his life. He would always be at the late night parties. We had one source who told us, as we got older, we would all be in bed by 9:30 so we can catch, the earliest head talk the next morning, while Tony would stay up for the after parties. This year was decisive, I think, in Tony's life, because when these events ended, it really gave Tony a reason to move out of Las Vegas, this place that he had built a family and a home and a community, to Park City. When he moved, he made outreaches to certain friends and said, I'll pay you double your highest W-2 if you just would move with me and just have fun. He supposedly did not use phones or computers. You couldn't really email him. If you wanted to get in touch with Tony, it was either through snail mail or you got in touch with another person who was around him who did have a phone.
Tony was surrounded by people who, were more or less yes people. Many of them were on his payroll and many of them weren't necessarily there or incentivized to try and stop him or prevent him from, harming or engaging activity that was, not healthy for his lifestyle. One of the behaviors that concerned some who were with Tony in the last several months was he'd taken a keen interest in biohacking, which is effectively this practice where you try to, alter the performance of your body. This meant going for extended ice baths, going for long runs in the snow. Another behavior that came up was that he was trying to hack sleep and how much he was sleeping and trying to make him sleep less while still performing as a normal human. And one of the ways that he was apparently trying to do this was through the use of nitrous oxide.
From my understanding of it, what nitrous does is it cuts oxygen off your brain. And so during that moment when oxygen is completely cut off, you sort of might experience this moment of lightheadedness that could be associated with euphoria. Jewel visited Tony at Park City, and there were a few purposes to the visit. She played a small acoustic set for a group of 50 people when she arrived in Park City. She talked about her nonprofit, but it was also scheduled so that they could hang out and have a good time together. But according to sources, Jewel basically left Park City within a day. She mailed a letter to Tony. And this letter talked about how she was very concerned about his behavior, concerned about his drug use. And she said that, you cannot hack sleep. You can't not have sleep. And the amount of nitrous oxide that you're doing is alarming. And when I read that letter, I realized that this was a big part of the story, because everything that Jewel wrote was exactly what all of Tony's friends had told us, and told us that they were trying to tell Tony, but just couldn't get through to him. Jewel posted a video to her social media reacting to Tony's death.
Death is so shocking. I don't know how other people feel about it. But the brain can't comprehend why you can't just call that person anymore.
Once we hit publishing the story and I read it again, it did make me just take a second to think of people in my own life who I felt that there are parallels to Tony's story, and where there are warning signs. Even though people may seem happy and go lucky and only spread positivity on the outside, they can be human on the inside and maybe struggling with things that not all can see.
I'm not gonna lie, this was definitely a fairly emotional reporting process, because you're talking to friends who are experiencing the grief of having lost someone they're close to. And not only that, they're recounting memories that are painful. And as a reporter, of course, you don't feel good about asking them to relive these memories, right? Because I think all of these friends of Tony, they wanted to remember Tony from a different year. I think what resonated with a lot of sources was that we were not trying to write another tabloid piece. We read the tabloid pieces and we felt that didn't capture the full story, if any story at all. And I think it was really like being able to connect with the sources in the sense that we're not trying to diminish Tony's legacy. We're actually trying to preserve it while being as truthful as we can, was what I think connected with sources the most.